That we are recording right now with Rod Gaddy,
What's
Hawkeye
up, man?
Wrestling Club. Hawkeye Wrestling Club hat on. What do you think about
Inner circle, bro.
Dan Dennis being up there?
I mean, he's an Olympian, so they don't give that away. So that's pretty awesome. Um, I mean, obviously Perry is really hard to replace. He's a unique dude, can do some really unique things, and he's done everything. So, um, and then Gilman is,
Total shake up there at Hawkeye.
yeah. I mean, the thing about those guys, and I don't know them personally, but um, they kind of bleed black and gold, right? So
That's
I'm like, you're going where? Like, like, I don't know.
that's one thing Askren on FRL was talking about. Like, man, you think of a guy like Gilman, you think total Hawkeye, and now he's at Nittany Lion. But it makes sense to me. It caught me off guard, but um, I think a reasonable decision based off of what he said. You know, his wife's family's up there. Spencer Lee is in the same room as him and currently competing for the Hawkeyes. And then I guess he had a pretty close relationship with Perry. But
yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't know, man. I'm sure there's like a lot to all that story. None of it really matters to me. So I'm going to support them. Uh, I mean, I think Ryan Morningstar is the most valuable person in the program, right?
yeah. No,
So,
you're close with Ryan. What makes him great in your opinion?
I mean, he's a great person. Um, he's got a lot of. He's a very moral, ethical guy. I mean, he's a fierce competitor. Like he's such a good guy that like sometimes I forget that he was like pretty savage dude, And I mean, dude, he's like he would treat like the janitor the same as the CDO. You know what I mean? Like he treats people really really well, and yet he's like a real like a high level. His standard of excellence is through the roof. And I mean, I know he recruited one of my kids a couple of years ago, and just my kid's a good kid and all that, but like he just made that kid feel like he was the greatest person in the universe, And so, but he's not like some chump either, I mean, the guy was a multiple time prep champ in Iowa, and All American. And
Yeah. Remember that one time he had no knee and he placed third at the NCAA tournament? That was awesome.
yeah, yeah, he's a pretty good dude. So, and you would never know it. Right? Like, unfortunately, some wrestlers, like, we know people that kind of wear their resume on their sleeve and, all that stuff. And I mean, if you just talked to Morningstar and somehow didn't know who he was, you would think he was like the towel boy or something because he's such a good dude. And he's always been nothing but hospitable to me or my kids that have come up there. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, and then obviously you got Tom and Terry with one at every level, um, and they're pretty much on the same page on everything. So it's very systematic there. But I think Ryan. I mean, he's a great recruiter, and I mean, he's just the kind of guy. Like in my business, when we look for applicants, we say things like, "Is this a guy you would room with? Is this a guy that that you would go and hang out and have a beer with? You know what I mean? Like, is this type of person somebody you want to be around? They have an infectious personality, and I think sometimes as wrestlers, like we kind of miss that. Like we're like make weight and heavy hands like all the time, and like it's like, oh man, you gotta be able to exist in that plane as well. And I just think Morning Stars does a really really good job of that.
So let's keep it in Iowa. And I've known Ryan for a while, but a guy you introduced me to in Fargo last year, Dylan Carew, that just seems to be outstanding as well. I've been meaning to get up to, obviously can't right now, but go see his new facility in his club. But tell me about Dylan.
Yeah, and so I think Dylan's a lot of the same things.
Big game wrestling.
Yeah, big game. I mean, Dylan's one of my best friends. And, a great wrestler himself. I mean, he wrestled for Mark Island at West High. I mean, it was insane. I think, and I might get some of the numbers wrong because I'm not a numbers guy, but at one point in that like season, I think Mark had a Fargo champ. Like, I don't know the number, and it's like kind of.
It's like 3 or 5 or something like really
no,
ridiculous.
it's like 9 or 10
in a room at the same time.
In a row, he had like 9 years in a row. He had at least one Fargo champ.
Yeah,
right?
I was talking about what Dylan told me. Some days, he won a Fargo title, right? But
he did.
But he would go. You said some days you get your butt kicked because at one time at Iowa City West there was I think 3. That could be low, but
yeah, it was both Moores and St. John and Dylan and I mean there's others I'm sure, but yeah. Anyway, so I mean it was just like it's like and I remember that team. I remember Mark was coaching that team back then, and they were. I mean, that's how I met Dylan. Is he beat one of my better kids, and but no, he's a great coach because he's as tough as they come, and he's born and raised in Iowa, so he gets that culture, and then but kind of like, and I think that you see two in like globally when you look at American wrestling, and I don't think it's like this as much as it used to be, but you see the two sides of the spectrum, right? So there's like heavy technique, right? And so you think of like John Smith and Lee Kemp and all these people that are like highly technical, right? Gray Simons, right? And then like, there's just heavy hands and beat the crap out of guys, right? And so there was these two sides of the spectrum. And what I was very fortunate that my high school coach was highly technical, Steve Gaydosh, and then my college coach, Mike McCready, he knew technique too, but he was like, we just get really, really strong and really, really tough and really, really in shape and just try to beat everybody up. So I got to see both. So then when I started coaching, I was like, why can't you just do both? Like why? And it's so funny because guys over here like hate guys over here, and they like make fun of each other, right? They're like, he's so primitive, and he's a Neanderthal, and this guy's like he's such a sissy about slick moves or whatever, And I actually adapted this into a philosophy. And if you remember when we were kids, like, do you remember the tall tale about Paul Bunyan?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so there's like Paul Bunyan, right? Like his big axe and his blue ox, Babe, I think is the name, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like the little weenie guy with the chainsaw, the steam engine, right?
Yeah.
And so you have like Oklahoma State over here, and Gable over there, right? All those things, and I'm like, what if you just took the chainsaw and gave it to Paul Bunyan?
Yeah. Like, and let's be honest, guys at Oklahoma State are strong and fit, and guys at Iowa know how to wrestle. Like.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's also like silly, like, and I don't really survey the chat rooms or anything like that. But it's so funny, like people think like like Morningstar doesn't know wrestling moves or something, like if like the Iowa guys like Spencer Lee, like if he just went to a couple camps, he'd be really good. It's so dumb. But philosophically, I mean, I think both have so much value, and so I tend to gravitate towards people like Dylan, who, I mean, dude, he was physical and tough, and he would just hit you in the mouth and run you out of gas and all those things. But dude, he also did some like really slick stuff, and he has like the ability as a coach now to like incorporate really high level technique. I mean, I remember me and him like sitting down talking about this mule kick ankle pick that Lebedev does, and then like he started showing that to Jared. Jared Gagan wrestled for him in his club when he was at his school, All-American from Iowa State, from Montana. And Jared's like, I don't know how tall he is, like way taller than me, like 6'5" or something. Yeah. It's like 149 pounder. And he started doing it. He's a mule kicking guy, and then put the foot behind the ankle and ankle picking it or whatever. And he actually does have an overhook too, which is really sick. But I mean, like, so he can he's like both. He's like Paul Bunyan with the chainsaw, and he's doing a really good job. I mean, I think he had 3 or 4 Iowa State champs this year. And then what's cool is his teammate, is his teammate from high school is now the head coach there. So Nate Moore is coaching there. and they just have a great community and stuff like that. And I think they finished like they were like top 5 in Iowa this year, which is like pretty tough to do.
Yeah.
I think only his second year there, so I mean they're just doing some cool stuff. But Big Game is doing a good job. I mean, their facility is phenomenal.
I've seen video and pictures. It looks.
I mean, like I remember one day
amazing.
he posted something on social media, and I think like it's great to have a good facility, but let's be fair, Cuba practices in like a shithole. You know, sorry, I don't know why I said that, but you know, and they're pretty good, right? So I like it when you like have a great facility, and that's awesome. I mean, that place like the Taj Mahal, and then like, but man, he posted a picture one day, and it was insane how many national champions he had, like on a Tuesday. You know, it was him. I think Mike Hasse was in town, who was a national champion for Edinburgh. I think like I know Jesse Whitmer is there a lot, and you know, and then St. John I think was there, and maybe Nate Moore was there. I mean, it was retarded. It was like if you had 150 campers at a camp in July, and this was the camping staff, like it would be appropriate. And this was like a Tuesday workout at Big Game. So, I mean, it was insane. And the kids nowadays just don't they don't get it. You know, like I remember being like 16 and like accidentally running into TJ Jaworski at junior nationals and being like, oh my gosh, like I like wanted to like just grab him, you know, and like he's real, you know. And, I mean, I remember back in the day we would get like there was no Big Ten Network, there was no coverage. Like you got the 30-second highlights, and maybe if it was a good match, like the last minute of the Big Ten finals, you know, and that was like a big deal. And you'd video it with your VCR, like watch it over and over again. Now because of stuff like Grow Wrestling and other outlets, like you get to watch all this great wrestling and you have access to all these people, and like those kids in Iowa City like have no idea how lucky they are to have access, and not just to great coaches and great wrestlers, but like, you know, Dylan talks a lot about like Whitmer and how much of it, and I don't know Jesse Whitmer, but you know, I respect what Dylan says, and he says a lot about like Whitmer's character and how like he really just affects like the whole team and the whole room, like the kind of person he is, you know. So yeah, man, Big Game doing a lot of great things, and yeah,
you know what he told me that I thought was really awesome was about this camp model that he has where kids come to camp, and he also has a landscaping business, correct? That's what
yeah,
it is. And so they wrestle a couple times a day, and then they go do landscaping. So they learn a trade, and they not only get to have a free camp, they leave with some money in their pocket. Better at wrestling, learn a little landscaping, and make a little cheese at the same time. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, before all this crazy stuff happened, I really was planning on going up there and taking some of my high school kids up there, including my son, and I was excited about it. But I mean, I think what's cool about that camp, and it's not just like this novel idea, right? Like they have kids play some Fargo. It's not like, oh, how cute, you know. But it is neat because he's turning these boys into men, right? And he's teaching them how to use their hands and not just for, you know, high crotches and, you know, single legs. I mean, he's teaching them how to work. And these boys will certainly one day be husbands and fathers. And, you know, they're going to need to cut the grass, and they're going to need to probably drill a hole in the ground and put a plate in there, and all those types of things. And, I mean, you can't. Most people learn that from their fathers, and then you have some people that, you know, like myself, that, you know, never really got that growing up. And so, you know, to have a place like that camp where they're doing those things, I mean, that's invaluable. And like you said, I mean, it ends up being like ultimately ends up being free, and you maybe even make money doing it. So,
well, I wish they would have had camp, because we would have got a Grow Wrestling coverage out of the deal if you were there.
I know, man. We can go up there and do it. So I think we'll be done with it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I think we'll be done with all this stuff pretty soon. It'll be interesting to see, you know, what happens.
Yeah, it's tough right now to, like, well, obviously you have to work like the next event is going to happen. We had 3 in March and April that are canceled, maybe postponed, but then we have September, October, December, and I believe that we'll be ready by then. We'll be back, but who knows, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of like you said. It's very late. I've been really fortunate. My company really hasn't been affected much, and sometimes, man, I feel like bad about that because I just know so many people are just hurting, and I mean, wrestling especially. Like Old Dominion, like it's
Unbelievable.
I mean, I used to go to Old Dominion camp when I was a kid. Gray Simons, and that's where I like learned to surf. Andy Simons taught me how to surf at camp there, and I just can't imagine Old Dominion not having wrestling.
What teams did they have that were better than their wrestling team?
I think the girls' basketball is really good.
Yeah.
It's
Wrestling's right up there. Wrestling's right up there.
And the wrestling team's good, man. They've had All-Americans. And
National finalists.
I mean, James Nicholson, who's, I think, a 2-time All-American for them. He lives here in Alabama now and has a club, the Vestavia Wrestling Club. He's doing a really good job.
He's at Vestavia.
Yeah. And there's another Iowa guy, right? And so, I mean, I haven't even talked to him about it. Like, I can't imagine, like, what that's like. That's like a mini death, you know? That's like and the thing that I guess, and I don't know all the details, right? Like Jason Bryant talked to me a little bit about it, but no, I don't like all that stuff, right? So I try to stay with the positive stuff, right? But like, I mean, someone made a choice to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like if you get cancer and you die, it sucks. But like, it's like someone chose to do this, you know? And I'm just like, and I'm sure there were fiscal realities involved, but like, it's just money. Let's just make some and like not stop wrestling. You know, I mean, you can't tell me with the alumni base there that there's no way that, I mean, I don't know if it's endowed or not endowed or whatever, but I mean, I just, that's just terrible. And I didn't even go to school there. Like, I just have memories of a kid going to camp there, and, you know, and Andy and Gray Simons, and that's terrible. But, you know, I think, you know, if any group of people in this country are going to rise to the occasion in this tough time, it's going to be wrestlers.
Yeah.
Wrestlers, it's what we do.
Hey, so tell me a little bit about Southern Event Management. What do you do?
Man, it's kind of like coaching. I teach people sales and marketing, and we have like a management training program, and it's a lot like coaching. I mean, you have to recruit people, right? So, except we're not looking for like, you know, biceps and backs. We're looking for brains. You know, we're looking for really smart people, and that have good character, good culture, and we teach them sales, we teach them marketing. And then ultimately we push them through like our management training program and try to put them in business for themselves. And it's been really good because I've learned a lot about corporate culture, which is really a very important thing in commerce nowadays. I mean, people don't want to work someplace where you can make a lot of money and hate their life. They want to work someplace where they really enjoy the people they're around. You know, and it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like, you know, when you're talking about Morningstar and Dylan, you know, and another guy that's like probably as good at this as anyone in the world is Kevin Dresser. You know, I mean, people go wrestle there, not just because of the tradition of that school, but, you know, I mean, same reason why people came and wrestled at Virginia Tech when Kevin was there. It's like, you just want to be around that guy, you know what I'm saying? He's just a winner. And so, same kind of thing. We build a company culture and you know, try to brand. But we do like we start with like in-store retail sales, and that's pretty cool because we have some great clients, and we sell stuff that's like everybody uses, stuff like phones and energy and you know, television and internet and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I've been fortunate with is all of those products are considered essential right now. So the government, you know, was like, hey, you have to keep working, and I was like, okay, like I'm not a nurse or a firefighter. I don't consider myself essential at all, but thanks, you know. And so It's just been great. Like, I'm just thankful, and I think the most thankful thing I'm thankful for is, I have a lot of employees that are counting on me, and thankfully, as terrible as things been, I haven't had to lay off one single employee.
Oh, that's great.
And that, to me, that means, like, you know, those aren't just people; those are families. Those are kids, and that's part of our company culture. Is like, it's so weird because we'll like interview applicants, and I'd be like, so Joe, tell me your wife's name. Oh, Laura, that's great. What's she like? Like, we care about people, and so, and I think that's just something that big picture, I think a lot of companies miss out on. And so during this, like, what do we call it, pandemic, right? During this stuff, we've had, I've been doing a lot of running. And so, like,
See
now,
that?
like,
When you get six, excuse me, I'm plugging in.
oh, you're good. So I've been doing a lot of when I've been doing a lot of running, and so like the other guys in our office have started running now.
Oh, cool.
And it's kind of cool because, like, they're better at it than I am, but like, I'm a lot older than them, so it's okay. So, but
How many of them have been in an MMA fight though? Probably none.
No.
Age is an attitude, Rod. You know that if anyone does.
I don't know, man. My knees don't agree with me, but I got ice packs for that. So. But no, man, it's cool. I love Southern, man. It's a great company, and we're 3 years old now, and we're growing and expanding. And it's just, I don't know. It's so similar to wrestling to me. It's
That's what I was going to ask you. How do you apply everything you learned from wrestling?
The way I'm learning, right? Like, and I think it's because I've had so many awesome coaches in my life. Like, I find people, okay, and I just find people on the mat, and then, like, try to invest in them and make them better than what I found them, right? And so it's the same thing. It's just not geared around the sport of wrestling. Like, so, you might find this guy as a coach, and he's good on his feet, but he's not good on the mat. So you get him better on top, you get him better on getting out, and all those things, right? Well, I'll find somebody, and maybe they are very talented speakers, but they're not good at, like, the nuts and bolts of business and numbers and things like that. You just help them with that, or it could be vice versa. And so you just teach them, train them, and everybody's good at something. Everybody sucks at something, right? So you just help them with what they suck at, and I'm pretty, like, upfront about it. Like, so I'm like, hey man, Joe, you're great at X, Y, Z. But ABC, you're not very good at that. So let's just focus on getting better at that. And so it's a lot like coaching, except for instead of getting trophies and stuff, you get money.
You make a living. You support your family.
You can't feed your family with pictures and medals. You know what I mean? So
you can talk about them a lot.
You can. But I'll say this: you can learn the things that you need to learn so that you can do whatever it is that you end up doing. And that's kind of, I read this article by Mark Cuban a couple of years ago, and it kind of shifted. Wrestling has been my life, like my whole life, really. For a long time, I was very fortunate to do what I loved as a career. And I read this article by Mark Cuban where he said to kind of abandon that mentality because it's so rare. He said what you should do is get a job that you're really good at and you can make a lot of money, and then whatever it is you love, just go do that on the weekends. And he was speaking metaphorically, right? Like, and so that's kind of what I did this year is I coached a local high school team near me, and that I'm not from. I've never been there before. And they were kind of in a rebuilding year. They had like 7 seniors or something the year before, and like a bunch of first-year kids. I think we ended up having like 3 forfeits and 3 middle schoolers in the starting lineup or whatever. But man, it was the best year of coaching I've ever had in my life.
Oh, sweet.
Because I just got to, like, help kids, and that was it. Like, I didn't have to teach. I didn't have, it wasn't my life. Like, I didn't have to worry about making money doing it. Like, and it was epic. We ended up having a state champ. And then we had this other kid. We had these 2 brothers that did really well, and then we had this other kid who's a first-year wrestler who qualified for state, and he's a hammer. Like, what? We'll be looking out for him in a couple of years. Like, he just never stops going. He's telling me the other day, he's like, man, he was like, I wish matches were 3 3-minute periods. It's like, yeah, I bet you do. I was like, well, in college, the first one is, and he was like, well, I'm going to have to wrestle in college. I'm like, This
Got
kid
him
has only
hooked.
run like 6 months of his life, and
Oh.
but he qualified for our state, won a couple of matches, and so yeah, so it's pretty cool. But I just think that like that's like wrestling in its purest form. It's just a love for it, and you can take it and then apply that to like whatever you're doing, whether it's running a media company or running a marketing company, or I know Robert Dyer, who wrestled for me 100 years ago, was a very successful attorney. Jeffrey Bastani, who wrestled for me a long time ago, he's in finance and does a good job, and then he's going to medical school next year. Like that guy's going to cure cancer. I'm telling you, cancer is in big trouble because that guy's going to medical school this fall, and like he just doesn't lose. And he learned that in wrestling. He learned that from coaches like Louie Wyatt and from all of the great coaches at Penn, right, that he had. And, so I think that's the important part is you may not make $1 million wrestling, but you're going to get stuff that's a lot more valuable. And it may end up leading to making $1 million or, curing cancer or something cool like that. So.
That's awesome. That's cool. So that's how you stay involved. You going to do that next year?
I don't know, man. It took a lot of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to. I might do it more like on the side or something. Like maybe just work out with some of the kids or something. My son will be a senior too, and so my oldest son, and so he'll be on the team, and that's hard. Like I don't really want to coach my son. Like I just want to be his dad, and but he likes wrestling, and it's funny you said it because like. You asked earlier, it made me think about a great example, like what about Morning Star? So we were driving up to Fargo because I had an office up there, and then it just happened to be, you were doing your thing in Fargo, and Fargo, the tournament was going on. And on the way up, we drove through Iowa City, and I think we stayed there one night. And I, like, moments notice, I call Morning Star, I'm like, hey man, I was like, so my son, who is not a blue chip wrestler or anything by any means, said, hey, I'm sure you're busy, that camps and stuff going on. And dude, he took like 30 minutes of his day or an hour of his day, introduced my son to Austin DeSantos, All-American, and just some of the guys in the team, and showed him around like the same basic tour that like my kid who got recruited, actually by the Hawkeyes. Like, it's the same thing. And I mean, dude, he didn't have to do that. But that's like, that changed my son's life. Like, he walked out of there and, like, he's got pictures with, like, DeSanto, and so DeSanto's wrestling, and there's all these matches that are important, and he's ranked #1 and all these things, and here's my 16-year-old son. He's like, oh, yeah, this guy, he's, like, showing all his teammates and pictures of him, I mean, I think that's, like, what it makes him so invaluable. And he's like really good at wrestling and coaching and all that other stuff too. So, but for me, that's #1. So, good dude.
Yeah, coaches change lives, but it's even sweeter when they are possibly changing one. A person that will probably not be wearing a Hawkeye singlet.
No, not. But like, if you ask my son right now, of course he's going to wrestle for him. He's probably gonna red shirt and then win it the next year. That's like what he was, because that's how like
it would be pretty lofty to just go in and win a national title as a true freshman.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, he feels like that. Like I'm like, hey, well, let's try and win a high school state title if you want. Like, it's whatever. But like, it's like he feels that way. Like, he left there. He's like, and then he's really messed up. He's like, Dad, why aren't you wrestling for the Hawks? And I was like, well, because I wasn't very good. So like, that's why. Like, but that's, he's like, why don't you just do it? Like, he's like, why don't you just get better? And I was like, I don't really know. You want to wrestle right now? Like, shut up. Like, but no, he left there feeling 10 feet tall. And I think that some people have the ability to do that. And to me, that's the best coaching, right? And he does a great job of that. Maybe as good as I've ever seen it. It's funny because maybe it's a Gable thing, maybe it's an Iowa thing.
Naked boy, hold on. Naked boy's trying to come out.
All right.
Come on, big boy. I'm going to slide this up like this real quick. Come on, Jackie boy. Daddy's working. One second.
How old's Jack now? Is he 5?
Hold on. I'll sit him down on my lap. Hey, you want to sit on Daddy's lap?
No.
You want to talk to Rod?
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah, he always wants to talk to Jason Heslop now. Jason showed him
Okay.
his stuff. We do meetings a couple days
What's
a
up,
week.
Jack?
But I was just think I can't wait. I always say I don't think I want to coach Jack either. But see, he wants to talk to Jason. I saw him. I took him to a practice before all the quarantine stuff, and he loved it. I went to go interview this kid, and Jason. I said, Jason, can you watch him? I come back. Jack's running laps with the team, and then everybody circles up. One person's in the middle leading the stretch, and Jack just went right out to the middle, which I was appreciated. And the guy would be like, down to the right. Jack would be like, down to the right. And now he wants to watch. He wants to watch wrestling on TV. Nothing that I force on him. So I think he's going to be in there. But I always say, yeah, like hopefully my brother will coach him or someone else. Cause I don't even know if I could handle it. Even when I think about him wrestling, I like my chin quivers a little bit. Like I would be in like emotionally not in the right place to
It's the hardest
be in his
thing.
corner.
I was fortunate because I coached my brother, and I probably learned more about coaching my brother, who was good. He was very talented, but it was hard to coach him. And I was very young. I was a young coach, but he was 11 years younger than me, and I made a lot of mistakes coaching him because we were very different. He was better than me, but our mentalities were different. I wanted to punch him in the face. He was like Lee Kemp, like he was going to beat him 3-1 every time, and that's just what he was going to do. And so they used to drive me nuts. And believe it or not, like when I would yell at him, and it didn't do any good. so I learned that like through him. And then so when it came to coaching my boys, I was just like, first of all, I was like, you want to wrestle, great. Like you don't have to wrestle. Like if you don't want to, you do whatever you want to do. Right? You want to play baseball, play baseball. Be a musician, be a musician. Do whatever you want to do. Now I do think that there's something about being the best that you can be at whatever it is you do, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm all over that. My daughter doesn't wrestle; she did gymnastics, and she's probably the best athlete you had. And I didn't really push her either. She was it's just what she wanted. And I think when it's organic like that, and they want to do it, I think they do it better. I think you end up having a better overall experience. One thing I used to do in my club, and I had a lot of success with, was I would have like a kid who's like 16 or whatever, and he's good, he's state champion. He's got like a little brother who's like 7 or something. Is we would bring them to practice, and these would be like pretty legit practices, and they would do the warm up, and I would tell the parents, I'd say, listen, go get a bag, like get his name on it or something, make it his wrestling bag, like get 2 knee pads, a headgear, like get as many accessories as you can get, right? And then get some trucks. Like Hot Wheels, or now it's probably like a Game Boy or I don't know, phones. Like 8-year-olds have phones now, I guess. I don't know. But whatever the kid likes to do to have fun on his own. And so we let him do the warm up, which we have a pretty good warm up, about 25, 30 minutes. A little bit of tumbling, and then there's no criticism, there's no coaching. It's just you just do whatever you want. You just want to run around a circle for 30 minutes, that's fine. Like, if you want to try a somersault, great. It's whatever. And then when that was over, we'd stretch. And then the kid would go in the corner and play with his trucks. And like for the longest time, I got all this pushback from the dads because their older son's like this really good wrestler, he's All-American or something, and they would be like, "No, he's got to be better, and he's got to." And I'm like, "That's how he's got to get there. Trust me." And after about 3 months, and every kid was different. Every kid would come, but typically it was about 3 months. The kid would go, "Hey, I don't want to go play with my trucks." And then he would say, I want to practice. And I would always tell the kid no, at least once, and sometimes 2 or 3 times. I would be like, no, and I would say, that's for the big kids. And dude, I would have kids like fighting back tears, begging me to practice. Like, I'm a big kid, let me practice. And I'd be like, no, you go, did you bring your trucks today? Go play with your trucks. And you know what? Those kids, a lot of them turned out to be really good wrestlers. But they never once questioned, like, when it was time to go to practice. They always valued it, and every one of them were like, I can't wait to go to practice. I can't wait to go to practice. They always had a really good perspective about the value of what practice was. And I think that that's a really important thing to build in your culture. And it was like really hard to do that in Alabama because we're not much of a wrestling state compared to an Iowa or a Pennsylvania or Oklahoma or whatever. So, if it was Alabama football, like, yeah, of course you wouldn't have to beg to go to practice, right? It's like they don't want to play for Saban or that other team they don't really talk about a lot, or they want to go to the NFL or something like that. So that's an easy sell. But here it's different. You had to do things like that, and we had huge success with that. So get Jack a bag, man, and I'm sure he'll wrestle for Uncle James and do just fine.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Pretty good. Your dad was a wrestler, right?
Yeah. My dad started wrestling in either 8th grade or freshman year for a school called Rittner, and it was in St. Louis, Missouri. And at the time, they won like 14 state titles, like 9 or 10 in a row. He was part of a successful program that was meaningful and kind of got him into something he could love. And then he went to a junior college called Forest Park in St. Louis for a couple years, and then he was at Southwest Missouri State, which is now it's just called Missouri State. Then he was a grad assistant at Arizona, but all of his post-high school program, Forest Park, SMSU, and Arizona, all no wrestling anymore. But anyways, yeah. So I grew up, he then was my first experience. He's a high school coach in Springfield, Missouri, at a school called Kickapoo, and he started.
One of my best friends is from Kickapoo.
Really?
He moved to Alabama when we were in high school. Kickapoo.
Kickapoo High School.
It's where Brad Pitt went to high school.
Yeah, it is. Brad Pitt. I think he was a wrestler.
Was he?
I'm pretty sure. But anyways, he also started a youth program. It was called Braves at the time. And so I just remember laying on the mats with my brother watching high school kids who I thought were like gods, I look back and I'm like, man, those guys were so good. I thought they were like Olympic level. I look back, they probably were not that great. But and then we started going to tournaments. I mean, when we were 6 and 7. And you know what? I say, like, I don't really want to coach my son, but I wouldn't have changed it at all. I loved having my dad. My dad coached me in the way he talked to me. And the way he talked to me was very different than the way he talked to my brother. It was all a little bit different.
Smart
but
guy.
Basically, yeah, everybody in our family was exposed to wrestling for at least a short period of time. And my brother and I, we wrestled for the longest, James all the way through college. And so lots of great memories, family memories. Because when I saw my dad, like my mom moved to Kansas City, they divorced. Every other weekend I'd go to my dad's, so we'd drive about 3 hours to get to Springfield. Saturday morning, wake up, it's dark outside. Go even further south to some small town in Missouri, wrestle, drive back, fall asleep, eat some ice cream, fall asleep. He'd always be listening to Prairie Home Companion. And then Sunday, 4:30, get in the car, go back to Kansas City. So, like, I associate, visiting my dad with wrestling a whole lot.
I think that's the key. Is if you're doing it as just something else to do to enjoy each other's relationship as a father and son, then I think you win. I think it's just such a competitive sport that a lot of times, unfortunately, you see the dad like trying to vicariously live through the kid, and and what I see a lot of is so like your dad wrestled. It sounds like wrestled and coached at a post high school level,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he's elite, right? And then unfortunately, it seems like when that's not the case, right? It's like the dad who's like junior high, JV, like runner up or something, like that was his pinnacle. Like that guy, like is so over the top, and it just it sucks because it really damages the relationship, like with your kid. The kid's gonna take the shoes off one day,
Yeah.
but you're always gonna be his dad.
What I want to see, like, I go to like Tulsa Nationals and Reno Worlds. I still do coverages, some like freelance work with Flow. And you can look around and you see some guys that are screaming till their head is all veiny and they're red. Um, and I'm looking like I don't know who that is. But you look around and like, oh, there's Hardell Moore. Oh, there's Tyrone Lewis. Oh, there's Daniel Cormier. And I'm just like, can you just take a look at those guys that have done it and are now coaching successful kids? And I guess I guess if you've never been there, if you never, those guys probably never felt really good coaching either.
What really changed it's so funny you mentioned Tulsa because that's like the first time I saw the exact opposite of that. And it was so like next to each other, and I'll never get the dates right. But Jim and Dave Hazewinkle,
Yeah.
you know them?
Yeah.
So they won Tulsa one year. I was watching the tournament. We had some youth kids there, and I saw a lot of like bad examples, right? Like some dad grabbing his kid, telling him he's a quitter and all that stuff, right? Like it's terrible. And then I saw, and their team was like insane. It was like Sammy, and then Tion Ware, and then like maybe like Nate Thorson. I think he was a pretty tough kid. And then there's like two other people, maybe like one of Sammy's cousins, and then like I think maybe it was just another cousin or something, like Rob or something. But anyway, there's like 5 of them, and they won Tulsa as a team with 5 guys, all like 5. I think like 4 of them won the tournament and 1 got there or something. And it was so funny, and I'll never be able to tell Jim or Dave Hazewinkle apart because like they're exactly the same. And I think one of them wears a watch, and I get it backwards all the time. And then they like mess with you. They're always like changing the watches and trying to mess with you. But whatever, they're funny guys. But the point is, their kids were going out there and just murdering everyone, right? And they would sit in the corner, and like they didn't even look like coaches. They were like holding the towels. Like that's their job. They were the towel holders, and it was good job after every match, and it was go get them before every match, And I watched them. And I was like, dude. And I asked him, and I said, how do you do it? Because I was a very young coach. I was like in my early 20s. I was like, how do you not yell? And he's like, what do you want me to yell about? And I was like, I don't know, like something, And he's like, yeah, we've got all of our coaching already. We did that in the room. Now it's just, I get a front row seat to watch.
That's cool.
I don't know. Those guys ended up being pretty good. So
yeah, they figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, Tion Ware was okay. Sammy's Wickle was all right, I guess. So, I mean, really all those guys were really good. So, but and then there's other guys, that are, I think they feed off the other two, right? I mean, Morningstar and Brains, those guys are pretty loud, right? So, that works too. So,
yeah. There's not...
Kale's like taking a nap in the corner or something. Kale really moves the hazy bar.
It probably too depends on, which kid's wrestling. When I watch my brother, he's had pretty successful coaching career at this Tolton High School, and he's had some young guys, some guys place low on the podium. Some guy Brock Mahler, the guys like Brock Mahler and Jarrett J.Q.'s, and now Teague Travis, that just destroy everyone. But and he coaches a little bit different with those guys than the guys that are like fringe all-staters, and he'll tell you when his hammers go out, it's like there's not that much. It doesn't feel like there's that much pressure. He said there's always a chance the Titanic could hit an iceberg, but just sit there and watch and clap for him. But when he really cares about those other guys that are just fighting really hard to get on a podium one time maybe in their career, and he looks and sounds different when those guys are wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. I think and it's not even just talent. I think every kid's different. My brother was better than I was, and I was the guy you could spit on me and slap on me, and you do whatever you wanted to me. Like I loved that stuff. That's how I like being coached, and Ryan didn't like any of that. He was the kind of guy you would just like, hey man, can I just get a little bit more out of you this period? And he'd be like, okay. And then he would go like wrestle above his head. So it's just different personalities. And I think that's so important in our sport. college it's different because you have an identity, and you kind of tend to recruit kids that fall into those lines, right? But, if you're lucky enough, if you're like Iowa or Penn State or even Iowa State, now you kind of draft more than you recruit. But when you get those kind of kids, that mentality that matches your identity, and but I think with high school kids, I mean, you got who you got, right? This kid just, it's like you said, this kid just came out for the team this year. Like he doesn't even have a pair of shoes yet. Like you got to coach that kid. You can't yell at him like he doesn't even know what he's doing. And it's funny because I found like that parents are like, hey, how come you're not yelling at my kid like you yelled at that other kid? And like, I'm like, oh, the one that's like a 3-time state champ? Yeah, well, I don't know. They're just different. It's like, what do you mean? Like, your kid's like, it's his first year. Like, he doesn't even know how to walk.
We're trying to keep him in the sport.
Yeah.
Wrestling is too easy for, there's like a little skink running across the, all right, I get distracted easily. Like, if it's not done right, in those first couple years, baseball starts seeming like a really fun thing to do. Take a kid to the wrong tournament. He's there for 6 hours and only wrestles for 48 seconds. Gets beat up. It's just like.
The way I figure it is, you can cut weight, get cauliflower ear, and not go out on dates plenty when you get older. You're a little kid. It's about the 3 F's, man. It's you're having fun, you're making friends, and then maybe learning some fundamentals.
Yeah.
And I don't get why. I do get. People have told me, I'm like, hey, your kid's 8. Why are you so hard on him? And they're like, well, I got to get him ready for the matches. And I guess that makes sense, sort of. It's not accurate, but the reality is let the matches and the practices and all of it be hard enough. You have to go the other way. It's like, what did you say? You're like, yeah, we would go get ice cream.
Yeah.
I mean, Damir Zakardinov lived with me for 2 years. He was pretty good, a 4-time Olympian, right? And he lost to Brands by 1 in the bronze medal match. And dude, after every single practice, we would like stop. And the guy's like, in his 40s, he's still shredded, right? But he'd stop and eat ice cream. He would get a bag of peanut M&Ms. And he would give them to kids, and he'd be like, you did really good today. And the kid didn't do good. Like, he might have got his head kicked in, right? But he would be like, you did really good today. And he'd give them 3 M&Ms. And he called them happy vitamins. And it's like, and it makes perfect sense. And you get it, right? Like, I don't know how many calories are in these 3 M&Ms. I'm sure they're not healthy or whatever, but the kid's 8. And him being happy and wanting to come back is infinitely more valuable than whatever, even if he gets a cavity. I don't know, So I just think that stuff's really, really important, to understand the psychology of wrestling's just hard, man. It's so hard, just to go out there, even if you're good, like to go out there with all that pressure, to be a kid. What parents and us and everybody really needs is to, pump that kid up, whatever that looks like for that kid in this situation.
I mean, especially at youth, like I think a coach has done good, and obviously it probably looked different for Spencer Lee, and there's clubs like Young Guns and stuff where the right kid goes in there and he's trying to learn how to really wrestle at 10 years old. But I think, and if you can have the kid really excited to go to the next level, where probably there's a little bit better coaching, a little bit better room, tougher tournaments. Obviously they get better there too, and then man, they want to go to college and they're excited. Then it's like then the progression has been good, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you see exceptions, right? So like David Taylor, and Dave, his dad, would tell you that they started young. I think like his first year, they say he sucked. I don't know if I believe that.
Yeah,
but okay, I'll give you that. Like he was the worst 4-year-old in the world or something. I don't know, but and then like, but pretty quickly he got pretty good. And he did all that. Like he went to all the tournaments, went to the Tulsas, and trained like crazy, and
moved to Ohio.
So I mean, sure. But here's my thing: is your kid David Taylor?
Yeah.
No. Okay. Well, then who is he? Let's make him the best version of who he is. And I'm not saying he can't be David Taylor.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if you talk to Dave, like Dave looked at it from a very scientific approach. He knew where to put his kid. And I mean, what's really weird about David is like how many changes he made physically. Remember he was like a 3-pounder, and then like a year later he was a 35-pounder or something? I might be getting that wrong, but you know, I remember there was one year he didn't go to Super 32. He was growing, you know? And you see all these parents that are like, if we don't go to the Super 32, we're never going to get recruited. We're never going to this, we're never going to. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, David Taylor didn't go one year because he grew 7 inches or something, you know, and he needed to adapt to his new body, you know. And so, I mean, it's just, yeah, I think that you see exceptions, but I mean, dude, wrestling's perfect. You don't need to monkey with it. Go to some tournaments, you know, go to the Stampede, right?
Oh yeah,
you know,
that's the one.
Get some experience. Have that. That's the thing. It's kind of like I was talking about my business. If your kid has a successful experience, right? Now, you know, that's a win. Now, if he's, you know, going to Fargo to trade singlets for the 8th time in a row, like, I don't know, maybe he needs a new coach or something. after 8 trips out there, he shouldn't go 0-2 again. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but just make sure they're having fun. They're making friends. And I bet some of your best friends, you know, to this day are people you wrestled with in high school and college.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Bader, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so same with me. I mean, they're like brothers. So, and it's not because I won or they won or you won or any of that. Like, I mean, we won, we lost, we all did all that. But
yeah.
Anyway, every time I say stuff like that, people just call me soft, and I'm like, you're probably
so soft. Hey, don't you have a buddy down there that maybe that is starting, like, was part of the Beat the Streets? Beat the Streets is in Birmingham now?
Yep. So it's Birmingham Wrestling Club. So it's Jeffrey Bastani. He wrestled for me. Jeffrey's a great success story in my career. He was, you know, a kid who grew up with a good family and a lot of privilege and stuff. And, you know, he won't mind me saying he was a little bit of a punk, right? And he was a lot of a punk, right? And so, and he wasn't even good at wrestling. Like, he didn't even place in a junior high tournament or something. And then he got pretty serious in 9th grade, and I think he was like a round away from placing in our state tournament, and then he ended up winning it. And he was in the blood round in Fargo, and was beating a good kid from Florida. I can't remember his name. Soto, I think, went to UPC. And hit an inside trip, took him down, and in the process broke his ankle. Like, legit broke. Like, it was bad. And so that was kind of a bummer. But he ended up going to Penn. Really smart kid. Ended up going to Penn. Wrestled for, you know, Valenti. I think he had a couple coaches. Valenti. I don't remember who the coach was when he first got there. I just remember the main guy recruiting him was Valenti.
2-time national champ.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I think he's like the AD there now or something.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He's something. I know he went to like graduate school there or something. But anyway, so yeah, and then like, I think even Jeffrey serves on the, like, their board with Raina. And the cool thing about Jeffrey is, like, he is such a great person. Like, he started this club. You know, Jeffrey, if Jeffrey was a coach, if that's all he did, he would easily be the best coach in Alabama. Better than me, better than anyone. His technique is very good. He's a good communicator, all those things. And so when I tell you he starts a club, like, he could go to a Vestavia, you know, or a Thompson, or one of these bigger programs in our state, and they'd be lucky to have him. But instead, he's like, you know, I think I'm going to start one in inner city. And he teamed up, actually, coincidentally, with an old teammate of mine, a guy named Ramon Owens, who was a state champ and is a very successful businessman. And they started the Birmingham Wrestling Club. And, I mean, dude, it's awesome. Like, those kids love it. And they're doing really, really great. And, you know, it's nonprofit, and they've gone out and sought sponsorships, and it's really good. Ramon's doing some really good things. I went down there and ran a practice once, and it was like, I didn't want to leave. Like, those kids just, like, they loved wrestling. They were just like, they like, want you to wrestle everybody. Like, go wrestle this guy. I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like, they're like, why don't you wrestle Jeffrey? And I'm like, no, I don't want to embarrass Jeffrey. Like, but no, he would kill me. But no, I mean, he's doing really good things. And so this is funny. This is a really cool story. When I turned 40, I was like, I went and got in the cage, which is a really bad idea. And so I went and fought in the cage. And I had a guy teaching me some MMA, but I was like, yeah, man, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. Like, it's wrestling with punches, you know. So I needed someone to coach me. And so I asked Jeffrey, and he, like, loved it. Like, he was like, I mean, it was nothing. It was like a regional exhibition, you know, basically. But like, Jeffrey was, like, on fire, man. He coached me, and I had so much confidence just for him being in my corner. And he talked to me, you know, he said, hey, should I mean, this guy studied finance at Penn, right? He's like, should I get out of finance and go into coaching? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, you should definitely not do that. And he's like, but that passion. He's like, when I was even just coaching you, I want that. Like, he's like, it was like a drug. He was addicted to it. And I said, I don't know, man. Like, no, I don't think you should. That's my answer, you know. And so he thought about it, he thought about it, he thought about it. And then he realized, like, what he wants to do is he wants to get into medicine. And so
Dude's legit, huh?
He is going to attack that hunger for that passion that he had in coaching and he helped coach our national teams a few times. He helped a lot of kids. He made some All-Americans in Fargo for us. I mean, he's good. But now he's going to take that passion and pursuing the victory, like, in medicine. So he goes back and he has to do, like, undergrad at UAB, and he takes all these biology courses. And, like, I mean, it was weird. I'm like, hey, man, you want to do this? You want to do that? He's like, no, man, I'm studying. And I'm like, okay. And he was, like, really worried. Like, I think he even called me for, like, a pep talk about, like, his finals. The dude made 100 in every class, right? so then he gets accepted into UAB Medical School, which is a very, very good. I think it's top 5 every year in medical school. And so he gets accepted, and, like, I'm telling you, man, like, when he used to talk about being a state champion or wrestling in college, or, you know, when he talks about Soviet wrestlers now or Olympic wrestlers now, like, it's the same thing, dude. And you know, he's still got to go to medical school and all that stuff. I'm sure it'll be great. But, like, I'm telling you, like, he's gonna cure cancer or something like that. It's gonna be unbelievable. And it's you know, he's got a great family. He's raised right and all those things. But it's also wrestling. You know, I mean, wrestling gave him that leg. I don't just want to be a doctor. Like, he wants to save kids' lives. You know,
Yeah.
like, I could totally see him curing pediatric cancer or something. You know, like, and I'm blessed to have been, like, a spectator and all that, you know, just to see him grow and all the great things he's doing now. That's a guy you should interview, dude. Like, he's sharp.
Set it up.
He's sharp.
Connect us.
He's what wrestling means.
Yeah, connect us. That'd be great. Hey, Rod, you remember how this was just supposed to be a test run for?
Yeah.
I hope it works.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I forgot to press record. That's fine. We could be about wrestling and life all the time. So how's the wife doing? She doing good?
Good. I think coming up on 23 weeks pregnant. You know, her company is, they had to downsize a little bit, but she's still on. So, you know, a little bit more work on her plate, but she works hard. So she's going through a pregnancy and a little bit of stress with work. And then Jack's a madman. I've been home though. You know, I take care of Jack and make sure Laura can get her work done.
It's just great, man. Everybody's healthy.
Yeah.
You're having a girl, right?
A girl, yeah.
Got names yet? You figuring that out? Are you telling anybody?
Rodrina. I don't know. We're thinking about it. I want to name her Laura, but my wife won't have it. He did. He was cute yesterday. Jack was. Yesterday, my grandma turned 96 years old. Is that 96 years old? And so she lives with my parents. For that reason, we've hardly seen him at all. You know, we're keeping our distance. But we went over there yesterday and in the backyard and sang happy birthday. And then my stepdad put a big honk your horn, 96 years today, and a lot of people did that. So that
What's your grandma's name?
Her name's Virginia Lober, but she's Grandma Hap Lober.
Okay. So are you thinking about naming her Virginia?
Cross my mind, but there's a few reasons why I wouldn't. There's some Virginias in my world that I don't like so much.
Well, my daughter's named Virginia, and I love it. We call her Jenny, and so yeah. I mean, yeah. Forget all those other Virginias. You'll redeem the name. Your beautiful daughter. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, you and your really good-looking wife. There's no chance your kids are going to be ugly. Yeah. So there's that.
We're super proud. I wanted a daughter so bad. Anything would have been great. You know, healthy baby. But
no, they're definitely better. I mean, I love my boys, but dude, girls they teach you how to be a real man. I mean, it's you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. So start praying for Jack. Jack's gonna be like, "What the heck's going on, man? I used to get all the attention."
It's gonna be good for we're getting older. We don't have a whole bunch more time to have kids. So we're pretty sure this is the last one, and we were even talking. And I thought, man, I don't know what I would have done without my brother. So we thought, man, Jack needs a sibling, and then also Jack needs.
It'll be fun too, because he'll be like, because he's wild man, right? Like,
yeah.
And my middle son is the wild man in our family, but he'll be like, wait, I can't just like bounce her around and stuff, and like, can I just throw her? And like, what do you mean? No, like I have to be gentle with her. And he's like, yeah, you can't. But that's all part of it. He'll learn. You know what, man? The way that I know you're a great dad, and I'm sure Laura's a great mom, but like the way that you raise her is going to teach him how to treat women, and he'll be awesome. Like when he gets to high school, like he'll understand, like, well, as much as possible, like girls, like. Like, you ought to be respectful and a gentleman and all those things.
Well, that's what Laura and I talk about it. It would be great if Jack is a superstar athlete. It'd be great if he's the smartest kid in the school. But what's important to us is that he's a kind person. So that's what we're going to stress. Do the right thing, treat people the right way. And that's stuff that we do have a little bit of. It's on us to be a good model and put them in the right environments.
Be a good person, except those 6 minutes on the mat, and then it's wartime ethic.
I have to show you. His wrestling stance is great. I'll hit you back so you can see it. But right now I'll stand. He'll grab a leg, and then I get him the angle, and then he runs his feet. So he'll just get my leg. Now he's starting to get the angle by himself. And
half my high school kids can't do that. Like stretched out like this the whole time, like head in the mat.
Yeah, but he needs some red alert training. His arms are straight out in his stance right now. But doesn't matter what I say, he's not changing that right now.
You know what Doug Bluebaugh used to do with kids that would do that? He would go get surgical tubing and like tape it around at the elbows.
Really?
He'd make them wrestle like that, yeah. And like, I saw him do it. Like, I was like, that just sounds like one of those old stuff. But then I saw him do it, and like, cause his single is like it's like a snag, and it's literally like just that. And it's kind of a workout too, because you're like fighting the surgical tubing to get the single right, but then it like pulls you right back into good position. And he would make them wrestle singles from there, and then he would make them wrestle on the bottom. So like they're like getting down in referee's position, and they're like. Their elbows are literally taped to their side. Like, stand up, and you couldn't red alert, man, like all the way.
Yeah, so got to learn to keep them in there. Just like what's that? Reminds me of is it The Program where he's the dude's Darnell Jefferson? Is that his name?
Yeah.
He's got to protect the ball during the school day.
Yeah, Darnell. Yeah, and they're like hit it out of his hand in the middle of the quad, and everybody's like tackling him in the cafeteria or whatever.
Yeah. Good, clean fun.
Good move, the program.
Yeah, I thought about the other day because Chad Tunick. He's a wrestling coach in Iowa. He's been putting he watches a movie a night with his son, I think, and he's had some good ones on there. And two of them the last week. One was Stand By Me, and that's one of my favorites. And then he had The Program on there, so I had to YouTube some clips of that Latimer dude making the roster. You know what? Those movies, though, when I was a kid, I thought it was so awesome. And, I remember the last time I watched the program, it was probably like 10 years ago. I'm like, this is so stupid. But
it's so bad.
Yeah.
Like let's tuck the women and children to bed and go out and hunt, or whatever it says.
Go looking for dinner. Yeah.
I used to 16-year-old Rod would have seen that and got chills. Now I'm like, I can't believe I watched this.
And it's all genres, too. Laura had never seen Joe Dirt. And I still like Joe Dirt, but I remember it being so funny. I'm like, I'm pumping it. I'm like, you're gonna love this. You're gonna love it. And we watched the movie, and she's looking at me like,
it's great.
Yeah, amazing.
You American.
It used to be hilarious.
That's so funny.
It's a space peanut.
Well, I'm getting ready to go run. I got 21 miles in 5 days to finish up. My goal is 100 miles in April.
Dude, that's awesome, Rod. That's awesome.
Yeah. the thing is, and I was talking to someone about this yesterday. They're like, "Oh man, I didn't even know you were a runner." I'm like, "I'm not."
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's like one foot in front of the other. Just keep doing it until
That's
it hurts.
cool.
And then do it some more, maybe. I don't know. But
Yeah. I can
but
hear.
it's been fun.
Yeah,
I
thanks,
don't know
man.
why I came up with the number 100, but I wish I'd come up with the number 50. It'd be a lot better.
Nah, because you're Rod Gaddy. You didn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't do 50. Just doesn't sound right. But cool, man. Yeah, I can hear my son. He got a bounce house over there, and which has been great since we can't go anywhere. So I'm gonna go play with him. Hopefully this recorded,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna chat about some. Me and you coming up this week. Maybe chat about some plans for the next season.
Yeah, man.
Some projects
For sure.
to work on together.
And what I kind of want to do with that blog is that I've been doing it every week. I'm going to invite you so you can look over it. But you know, I want to start like if you could just teach me like how to do this. I want to start having this conversation with our candidates. It'd be much shorter, right, to the point. And then like maybe once a month, like me and you, like I would start probably with you, right? And
Yeah.
just people. What I really want to do is I want to start with people who've like had some involvement with Alabama. So like you came down that one time, so I think you're a great candidate, you know. And then also you're just a good friend, and you've done things for everybody in every state, right? So, but then like maybe like I was like, dude, it was so weird. Like Eric Guerrero called me the other day, and we were talking and just about all this craziness and stuff. But like you know, he came down and did a clinic, and you know, just like once in a while, like not with someone that's from Alabama, but someone who's had a part to play in Alabama, you know, just a quick 20, 30-minute thing like this, and like maybe you could even be a part of that, you know.
Oh,
and
that'd be
maybe we don't just
awesome.
do Alabama. Maybe we do the whole Southeast. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. So
That'd be awesome. I always value any of the content you created, whether it was for Flow or for Grow.
yeah, man. So I don't. Well, cool, brother. We'll enjoy that bouncy house. Keep catching up with you.
Take care, Rod. I'll see you
All right,
around.
man. I'll holler at you.
All right. Bye.